Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Wake Up American. This is your daily American English pronunciation show where we just help you get in a little bit of practice to start your day or whenever you're listening to us. Just try to get that pronunciation practice in, right? Because that is the important thing. Showing up. It's Monday, which means we just passed the weekend, which means you may or may not have been using English. You can let me know in the comments, in the chat afterwards about how much English you used over the weekend, but we're trying to get you back into the flow of things and to guide you in this process. Hi, there's me. I'm your host. My name is Jeff. It rhymes with breath. That's one of the four keys to a natural sound in American English pronunciation, that and placement and pitch and breath. And trying to weaken your consonant sounds, strengthen your vowel sounds. Now, something that happened over the weekend was I did get a comment from 44 Nina 44. Thank you for writing to us. They asked us a very important question. They asked us, do you have a lesson where you explain the ahs and father before a voiceless consonant sound? If you don't know what a voiceless consonant sound means, that means that your vocal cords do not vibrate. When you pronounce that, you can think of like a s sound or a p, p sound, like a p, or like a t, t, t sound, things like that. Those are voiceless consonants. So we're going to be talking about that. But more importantly, we're going to tie this into I think a very important concept when you're learning a language or you're learning a new pronunciation system. Sometimes you're not sure where to start. You don't know where to begin. And so one type of sound that I think is really helpful to start with is a sound that exists in English, but that also exists in your first language. And there's a couple sounds that are almost universal. There are a couple sounds that almost every single language has. Those sounds are specifically an E sound. In English, that would be an example word would be like seat, seat, that E, E. Another example would be the oo sound. In American English, that would be like in the word like soon or tooth. In your language, that may be closer to something more like an ooh sound, with really round lips. And then the final sound would be this ah sound. Almost every language has an ah. In your language, it may sound something that's more similar to like ah, 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 or like something like that, with a higher placement. So I think these are helpful sounds to start with because they can really help us begin noticing the difference in things like placement and also airflow. So we're going to begin looking at this ah sound in a little bit more detail specifically. So first things first, for the ah, how do you even make this vowel sound? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to have your mouth wide and then your tongue is basically going to be down. You want the back, the middle, and the front of your tongue all pretty low. If I say ah, ah, one of the things you notice is that you can see back into my throat. Ah, you can see all the way back there, right? So that's a sign that I'm doing the ah sound right. And you can check that in your mirror. If you're studying, you can look in the mirror, open your mouth wide. And if you can't see back into your throat, then there's a chance that your tongue's a little bit too high. One of the big differences between how American English uses this sound and how other languages use this sound is placement. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a tendency for other languages to have a higher placement, projecting maybe top of the throat, back of the mouth. If that's the case, it's going to sound something more similar to like an ah, ah type sound. Or you could even think, for instance, like in British English, you get more of like a oh, like an stop, stop, versus in American English, ah, stop, stop. Pretty big difference in sound, right? This is why I think it's really key to study concepts like placement because hopefully you could hear the difference between like a stop and a stop. That's a pretty dramatic difference. The mouth position's identical, but the placement's completely different. So if you're projecting sound from a wrong spot, it's really hard to sound natural. And if you as we do our exercises today, if you have questions about them, you want to check and see if you're doing it right. We do have an opportunity if you go to our Telegram group, you can see my name, fluentamerican.com/Telegram. In the Telegram group, I post words every single day. and then students, members of the group, they can reply with their own audio, and then they get feedback within 24 hours. And we do that every single day of the week. So I encourage you to check out the Telegram group if you're interested in these sounds. You want to make sure you're pronouncing them correctly. Okay, so here are our words. And we also have a practice sentence as well. The way we're going to do this is we're going to say the ah sound. Then we're going to do the voiceless consonant afterwards because that was the question that we received from Nina. And then after that, we are going to do the whole word. And we're going to repeat that twice for each of these. Our first word. So, ah, asp, wasp. Ah, asp, wasp. Ah, op, cop. Ah, op, cop. Ah, ak, lock. Ah, ak, lock. Ah, at, not. Ah, at, not. Ah, ak, rock. Ah, rock. Ah, ak, rock. Excuse me. Ah, op, pop. Ah, op, pop. Let's do that one more time a little bit faster, trying to keep the air flowing because that's going to more perfectly mirror what you do when you say in sentences. Because when you talk in sentences, you want that air continuously flowing. So we're going to try to do all this in one breath. Just keep going with me, okay? So, ah, asp, wasp, cop, cop, clock, clock, not, not, rock, rock, pop, pop. How did that go? Were you able to keep up with me? Again, try to see if you can do that in one breath, maybe two breaths, trying to minimize that to try to keep the air flowing. One thing I see with students a lot is they often pause for breath a lot more than native speakers do. So that can be something to just take a look at. I see that Kara is back with us. That's very exciting. Good morning, or might be probably evening where you are. I guess unless you're in the US. Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. We have our sentence. So the sentence, we have a couple ah sounds here. So we have wasp again, we have not, we have on, and then we have rock. I do want you to be careful with the word on. That tends to be a tricky word because of the letter N. The letter N, we've done this in videos, the letter N can interfere with your pronunciation very, very quickly. So you want to make sure you're not doing like on. You can hear how my placement just shot up right when I did that N sound on. And that is not the sound we're going for. We are going for on. Notice I'm pressing the tip of my tongue down against the bottom of my mouth when I'm doing that, just to help lower the placement. Try to get a little more air through. On. So let's work backwards a little bit. So our last word, rock. On the rock. On the rock. Not on the rock. Not on the rock. Wasp was not on the rock. Wasp was not on the rock. The wasp was not on the rock. The wasp was not on the rock. A couple other things to note here as well. Was is not was. This is a schwa sound. So it should not sound like ah. It's not wa. It's going to be wa, was. So wasp was, wasp was, wasp was. Make sure you're not pronouncing both of those words with the same vowel sound. The other thing I want to mention too is related to that on the rock part. Sometimes it can be a little difficult to say on the rock because that th followed by that n. So sometimes what you're going to hear native speakers do is kind of extending the n sound and removing the th. So instead of saying on the rock, you might hear on the rock, on the rock. Can you hear a difference? On the rock, on the rock. Just a note about that. One final thing is if you're saying the sentence and you're like, man, this doesn't sound natural at all. Okay. One last little tip that you can do. Let's maybe split this into separate thought groups. Okay. So maybe what we can do is we could do the wasp in its own thought group. We'll stress wasp. And we're going to do that a little higher in pitch. The wasp, in our second thought group, a little lower in pitch, was not on the rock. And we stress rock. The wasp was not on the rock. The wasp was not on the rock. So try with that and see if that gives you a more natural flow. All right, guys, if you have any questions for me about this ah sound, about voiceless consonants, about linking, about anything we've talked about, placement, breath, pitch, trying to weaken your consonant sounds, be sure to let us know so we can cover it in a future stream. But hopefully, this sends you off into the world on a good note. Happy Monday once more. It's great to be back with you guys. We'll be back through this week. A note that we do have some holidays coming up in the United States. So we're most likely we're still going to be streaming. There's a chance we'll still stream on Thursday, but Friday probably not because we'll be traveling. I guess just a note. Thursday probable. There's a chance to know. And then Friday, not likely. Okay. But once more, this is Wake Up American. We're here to wake up, start our day off with you to make sure you get your pronunciation practice in for today. Thank you so much for joining me. There's a million pronunciation resources out there. So the fact that you guys chose to turn to us for a little bit of help is greatly, greatly appreciated. Once more, my name is Jeff. It runs with breath. Again, that's one of those 4 keys to a natural sound in American English. It'd be great to work with you every day. Check out our Telegram group if that sounds like something you'd be interested in. Otherwise, I will see you guys later. Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good afternoon. Take care.